Okay, so what we're doing today is portraiture in watercolour, loose watercolour. All I can say is it's absolutely wonderful and very, very easy. Maybe not. No, what we're going to do at the moment is we're going to get onto some portraits, some loose watercolour portraits, and I've just got a couple of examples here for you to see. This is the sort of thing that we're looking for at the end of all this. But first of all, we're going to go through. So we're going to go through how to create that wet in wet. Okay, so what we do first of all is we create a base colour. So we're creating a base colour using yellow ochre, and we're going to use a little bit of sorry, it's not the right one, vermilion. Okay, so it's quite orangey, orangey colour. And what I'm going to do with this as well is I'm going to apportion this down my palette through the wells, because I want to make a more reddy colour, because when you look at skin, it varies between the skin tone, and then the tones change. Obviously there's a reddy tone, and then there's obviously the more shadowy tone, whether or not that's actually, you know, emanating from beneath the skin, or whether or not that's to indicate the shadow. So what I've done here is add a touch of alizarin crimson to this colour here, this base colour, and then with this one here, I've neutralised it with some ultramarine blue to make that darker colour. So what we're going to do now, what we're going to do is just put that base colour down, okay, and then we're just going to take a brush full of water, and we're going to take that base colour just a little bit further out. Okay, is that all right for everybody? And then we're going to use this next colour here. But remember, when you're using wet on wet, you need a more pigmented colour, otherwise you're going to get a bloom. Okay, so we can either dot it on like this, or we can use nice brush strokes. We don't want to move the water underneath too much. Okay, so this is always an issue. So that's got the alizarin crimson. So that's the base tone there, with a touch of alizarin just dropped in. So it just creates a little bit of tone there. So if we want to make that, we want to bring in those dark areas, we can use this one here, which is the skin tone with the alizarin. Just be very, very, with the ultramarine. So just be very careful where this goes, because this can be quite penetrative. Okay. Now what you can do eventually as well, you could also just bring a little bit of ultramarine, depending on how dark those shadows actually are. Now, the reason that we do this has to behave, this has to happen all on the wet in wet. Okay. So what we're trying to do when we're doing this portrait, for example, here, we are creating this basic skin tone first, and we're dropping these colours in, so we've got a really good base. Now, great watercolour artists, they can work wet in wet from beginning to end. So they would have this portrait basically done in about 8 minutes, I would say, 8 to 10 minutes, because you know, they are very good. I can't say that I am one of those. So what I like to do is create that base first, just to create that base where I'm sort of mapping out where is light, where is dark. Okay. Always leave, you know, never use white, as I say all the time. Never use white when you want something to be white. When you want the highlights, plot those highlights on your portrait. But we'll talk about that when we draw the portrait up. And then you leave that blank. Okay. There is a way, if necessary, if that doesn't happen and you've gone over, I will demonstrate that in a second. But just for the meantime, I'll just pop around and have a look. So I'm just going to pause the video now if you are watching. So what we're going to talk about now is what happens when this actually dries. And we want to go back and get these colours. What's that? I am recording. Thank you, Roy. I am actually recording. Yes, remind me, if you don't see this recording, tell me, okay? So if this dries, what do? You know, so what you can do, just check mine is completely dry, is with, I'm going to show you a couple of techniques that come in really handy. So I can wet this once it's dried, because it's sealed now, so there's nothing more. I wet that with some water, okay, just plain water, and I can go back in now and darken these areas up, okay. Can you see that? And it's doing, and what that will do, it will blend in with what is on the bottom. And like I said, the more pigment that you have, then the better that will actually. No,
so
just
you do bold layers with watercolour.
You can. Well, yeah. This is a cheat.
Okay.
But it's a good cheat.
Yeah, it's a very good cheat.
Because yeah, unless you're really confident with watercolor and you can go bish bash bosh, whoa, you know, that looks great. Then wet in wet is for you, and you're very good at it. But for someone who isn't that confident and that good at it, this suits me really, really well. So I've got another tip as well. While your watercolor is drying, I am going to. Yeah, I think I might take up smoking again, but yeah. So what I'm going to do here, okay, I'm just going to just put that down on there for now. But if I say, for example, I had something underneath here, and there's a sharp edge because I haven't wetted it or it's dried. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll clean my brush, and I will dry my brush quite a lot, and then with a dry brush, I can actually, can you see that?
No, not really.
I can blend that. I'll come and show you. I'll do a darker. I'll do a much darker colour. Let's go for full ultramarine. Okay. You see all that? Everybody can see that? Okay. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, you know, I'm getting a really harsh line here. I don't want that to happen. So I clean my brush. It's nice and clean. I dry it off. And then it's sort of dampish, and then I can go in on the edge and make that a lot less. It's a bit difficult with ultramarine. Can you see that actually takes that away? So it's not as effective as I would have liked with that colour. You can sort of tantalise it. You can sort of tickle it. But it's a bit difficult with the blue. Sorry about that. But you can't. Can you see, are you seeing that at all? Yeah. Can you see that happening? Apparently blue, and Roy, can I also ask your opinion on this? Blue's the hardest colour to dry, am I right? In printing?
Yes.
Yeah. So
reflex blue, nightmare.
Yeah, reflex blue used to
20
be.
fags.
Reflex blue used to be. Gosh, that used to be the colour of choice, didn't it? The blue of choice. Yeah. Reflex blue.
Engaging a printer, he's asking to run reflex blue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to use a different colour because I'm not happy with the outcome of that. But blue is a bit of a. I used to run alizarin. That might be better. Can you see that? You can't really see that very well, but you can. It is actually smoothing it off. Okay. So that's how you can remove that harshness of line. Can you see that's gradiating quite well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you remove that harshness of line. One other tip as well that is really important is my favourite. So if I say, for example, so I'm just taking it straight out of the palette. I thought, oh no, I've missed out my white bit, you know. And like I say, you don't use white. So reiterate that. Yes, Carol, I think I can hear you. So you can wet your brush a little bit and just put some water on. I mean, this is quite wet, so I don't need to do that. So I can do that. Then dry my brush off completely, my clean brush. And I can lift that out. So if you remember, we used to lift out with you can do that, or I can use this, and I can lift that colour back out, and I can get that white again. Okay. So there are the tips.
Top tip.
Yes. Top tips, life hacks, as they say. Okay, so again, so just to run over those tips again with skin tone, to get a lighter skin tone, obviously you use more water on the base, and then a darker skin tone, obviously you can either go in with a less diluted pigment, or you can add some alizarin or some vermilion or anything on that red hue. To create those rosiness of a Caucasian skin. Or you can obviously there are going to be shadows because the light generally is coming from above, so you will always get shadows. So then you neutralize that flesh tone with some complementary color, which in this case is ultramarine blue. Okay. So now we've done this. What I'll do, I'll just pop round and have a look at everybody's, and then we'll come back and then we'll discuss the portrait. Okay. So we're going to deal with hair. Sorry. So I'm going to use. All I'm going to do. I'm going to take some quite thick paint here. Okay. Just take some red. Okay, like that. Oh, Jackie, we got a straw.
So this is very thick now.
Yeah, well, reasonably thick because you're doing the hair, but we're going to thin it down. So I'm going to get a nice brush full of water.
Is that burnt umber you use there?
Whatever. Yeah, I think so. And I'm just going to. I want this to happen. Can you see that? So I need to tip. You'll have this on your board.
So you need a lot of pigment.
Yeah. So you need a lot of pigment in order to water it down. But like I say, you might have to start it off because the water just wants to follow the water. Okay, and that's what you're looking at. But Jackie has got some straws, and you can blow that around. Okay. There it goes. So that's what you're looking for there. When you're doing a portrait, the best thing to do is when it comes to looking at shadows, obviously here within the eyes, you've got the bridge of the nose there, which is always going to obscure the light. So we're always looking for shadows here. Remember, the whites of eyes aren't white; they're normally grey. So, and to make them spherical, we need to add a little bit of darker colour at the sides in order to make that sort of sphere. Okay. Always remember the catch light as well. That's always very important. And the darkest place is obviously the nostrils and the sides of the mouth and the bottom of that, the top lip. The top lip is always darker because generally that is in shadow to a point. But obviously within the mouth, the sides of the mouth, they would be grey, and underneath the bottom lip, generally, you've got fat lips like me, then you've got quite a bit of shadow at the bottom, and obviously here as well. I've had some alizarin here. Alizarin crimson can take that that grey down. The way, if you remember how we make that grey as well, it's again burnt umber and ultramarine blue. We create this grey, so we don't use black. No, but do you know something? If you really do want to accentuate something, just a little bit of black, I don't think it's going to hurt. On the pupil or anything like that. So in order to sort of take that black down, you can always add a little bit of burnt umber or some alizarin, and the alizarin just takes that dark colour a little bit. It makes it a little bit kinder, okay, rather than it being so stark. But build up your colours. Don't sort of go in there all guns a-blazing. It's not like acrylic, unfortunately. It's a one-way street, basically, watercolour.
Do like the colours first, and then when that's dry, work over.
Yes. So what we can do, we'll build up that face first with the with the base colour, and we'll add those different tones in where we see fit, where those tones are going to go, and where the shade is going to go, and we'll add those in. And then my perfect solution then is let it dry and go over it with a wet brush, and then go over it again if you need to. Okay, now if you go over it with a wet brush, say for example, you just go over this area with a wet brush, remember that there will be a water line, there will be an end to it. So you either go on the whole face with a wet brush, avoiding these parts here where you've left the highlights, or if you just want to do a very small section that you know that you're not going to complete, then just wet that area. But my advice would be let it dry and then wet the whole face again, obviously without wetting the highlights. Okay.
How did you get it to run? I mean, I held it up like that and blown on it, but it just hasn't gone.
Well, it's running. It's running.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's running. I mean, I put a lot of pigment down, then I added a lot of water, and then the pigment just naturally just ran down. So that's how that happens.
Also, I've just experimented. It doesn't run too freely. If you get a clean brush with some clean water,
Yeah,
just put a trail at the end.
that's it. You might need to create a new channel.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, you might need to create a new channel for that water to run down. Are there any other questions so that I can answer them while the video is running? Is there anything else on this face that I haven't gone through that you might need to talk about? Okay. Okay, so what I would suggest, it is coffee time, so I'm going to stop recording now, and we'll just hopefully draw the face beforehand, and then a good pencil drawing basically is what you want. That is the most important part, if I'm honest, a really good pencil drawing. And then obviously we'll start the painting, which I'll obviously help with if necessary. Okay, so I'm just going to run through just drawing the image. I have made a very light sketch here. So what I would suggest you did, I'm going to use a 4B, possibly a little bit too much to use, but I'm going to work out where my darker areas are. I'm not really going to drop them in, but this sort of gets you a little bit accustomed to how the drawing is going to, how the painting is actually going to transpire, magically appear. So I've got a catch light there. Okay. And a good drawing, a good drawing really helps. So I think I want that there as a highlight, and as a highlight up here, I'd say. If I had the image, highlight here. Yeah, like I say, this I'm using a 4B. Don't use a 4B.
So we can see what you do.
Yeah, so that you can see this. So really, all I'm really doing is just sort of familiarising myself with what is where, and I have a highlight here, a highlight there. And so when I actually put the paint on, when I put the paint on, I just make my colour back up. You can see it. So if I make these first strokes, I'm trying to use the biggest brush I possibly can, okay? And I'm just going to, so it's still quite wet, my paint is still quite wet here. So I'm going to get a nice big brush full of water, and I'm going to tease that around. You might need to lift your board a little bit.
Is that wet on wet? Or just
Well, this is me wetting the paper basically. So yeah, so I'm just trying to avoid those highlights that I've put in. Okay, so I can take that down there, and I'm trying to tease the water around where I want it to go, Just put a little bit more on here, and then I'll take a brush full again, and then I'll just spread that out. So now it's wet in wet. Now this is when, for me, the panic sets in, and I now have to go in and start adding those ready tones in. So I can do that here. Not quite sure where they're going to go. A little bit under the eye normally. It's a bit normally there, here. And this might end up a little bit red, but I'm trying to make it as dark as possible for you to be able to see that. Now, obviously, I need to go around here while it's still wet as well. So, because this first layer will set that tone for the whole image, really. But my advice is really to have those colours at the ready. Okay. And then I've also got this darker tone here. But remember as well, you know, if all else fails, we can always use that other technique that I showed you, where we do actually you know, wet the face again in order to achieve the wet on wet sort of gradual sort of technique. I'm just going to let that dry now. I mean, if I was an expert watercolorist, then I would be in there sort of, you know, just going in, dabbing this out, dabbing that out, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not, like I keep saying. So I keep saying a little bit too much, actually. Seeing as my boss is standing at the end of the room, and maybe I should shut it up. But can you see that's starting to dry now, and that's starting, just for the benefit of the video, sorry, video. But it looks a bit orangey, but that's just so that the class can see it, because there is a little bit of variation when it comes to being able to see it in class, obviously. But it's more about the wet in wet technique for me at this moment in time than it is about anything else. And obviously, like I say, you can still see my pencil marks, and that's not something that you really want to see ultimately. Here. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to dry, what I would suggest that you all did is just do a little bit of I don't know, some burnt umber or some sienna or whatever you've got there, and just sort of just block it in, really. Just try not to go near that.
Near the paint.
Yeah, you need a breakwater, basically. But it just gives, for me, it just helps a little bit when
Give me mouse at the wrong angle every time.
Just for me, it helps a little bit, just when I actually come to do the hair, that there's already something in place there. Okay, but don't go anywhere near the anywhere near that. Yeah, if you look on the video, it looks like she's sort of been I don't know, she's been on the sunbed, or she's been to Boots and bought some considerable fake tan. Okay, so what we're doing here is the eyes, and we're just putting the blue in, and we're just putting a little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine.
Are you recording?
I am now, yes. Okay, so we're just getting that nice colour here. And we're just going to take a little bit and then just, obviously the top of the lid is always in shadow. Well, unless obviously you've got a light shine up your nose, which we don't have generally. And I also want a little bit of a watered down affair just to get this sort of sphere. I don't know if you can see that. Can anyone see that? Yeah, you can, can't you?
Yeah.
Just to get that sort of spherical look. And we can pull that out a little bit with the dry brush again. Oh, Angela, is that you?
Yeah.
Is that big sigh you there? And also with eyes, there is, you know, they're red as well as they're black and blue or brown. So there's always a little bit of red lurking away in that corner there. Okay. And then you just sort of build that up really. So I'm just going to add a little bit more darkness at the edge there while that's still wet in there. A little bit too much there. And I'm just going around the pupils as well. Not the pupils, the iris. And we will embellish the eyes as well. You know, we'll let that dry and then we'll embellish these a little bit once they've dried, because they will dry a little bit lighter. We'll need to go back in. Well, I've got that grey colour as well. I'll just pop a little bit in the nostrils too, and just in at the base of the mouth there.
That's all what I like.
Everybody see that? Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing, I'm just wetting around the eyes.
Right.
Okay, just so I can add a little bit of definition. So I'm not going to go as far down as I've wet. So this is what I was saying before about you either wet the whole face or you don't, or you use this area here. What colour are you? So I want a bit of that and a bit of alizarin, I think. A little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of alizarin, I think should give me like a purpley colour. That I'm going to try this and we'll see what that's like. Yeah.
I like the splashes on it.
I'm going back to being neat.
Going back to what?
What colour are you using there, Jackie?
It's just alizarin and the burnt umber. So I've got that sort of
Is that blue?
purple. No, alizarin is the crimson. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm just adding, and what I do want to do with the alizarin is because eyes are quite red, aren't they? They are quite red. So I want to put just a touch of the red, but I don't want it too harsh. Oh gosh, as she says, too harsh. I think I got a bit too much on my brush.
So Gillian, you've wet that before you start.
I wet this, yes,
And then
already.
you use it.
Yeah, I don't mind it being there. I think I might use a smaller brush for that actually. Just a touch under here, just along that waterline, just to give it that. Oh gosh. And then just a little bit over here as well. And that should actually gradiate into something quite nice once it dries. And what I would like to do while this is still wet is just use my burnt umber ultramarine again with a small brush and just take that to start down here a little bit.
Is that just burnt umber?
No, burnt umber and ultramarine, the magic ingredient. Yeah, the magic ingredient. The magic, not ingredient, magic recipe. The thing is with watercolour, what I find is actually letting it go, because when I'm doing watercolour, I think, oh my gosh, that's so dark, that's so this, that's so that. But when it dries, you have to have that confidence. You have to have that actual confidence that everything's going to be okay. And
I'm quite sure about that.
So I'm just going to let that dry now.
Sorry, Lucy, you did say, but you know the lids?
Yes.
What colour do you use?
I use some alizarin and some burnt umber, and I just went all the way around the eye. But look, as it's drying, you can see that that's actually working quite well. I'd like to think. I'm hoping I'm not just being hopeful about that. But I think, you know, as it's drying, you can see that colour's lifting a little bit. And I mean, it looks like on the video, it looks like she's got a black eye, but on the projection, it looks okay. So I'm happy with that. And the beauty is as well when you've got those, you've got bits drying. I mean, I'm just going to go around here around the nose, and I'm going to use that trick that I showed you earlier, where I can smooth out these lines.
Ooh.
And also around the neck, I like to put a little bit of the crimson. Okay, I'm just going to let that dry. I'm just going to look towards the lips at the moment as well while everything's drying. So I'm just going to put some alizarin in there nice and lightly. There's always a little bit of a white bit on the lips, isn't there? But I want that top lip to be a little bit darker. So I'm just going to put a little bit of alizarin with some burnt umber and just dot that in. So just to take that a little bit darker. It might look a little bit dark on here, but when it dries, it won't be quite so harsh. So if I mean I need to go back in and work the eyes a little bit further than they are. If I mean I might not do it now, but all you have to do again is wet the area and go over it and go over it a couple of times. What I will do though in the meantime is by using some burnt umber. You must get sick of me saying burnt umber and ultramarine.
I'm kind of giving up. I'm just struggling.
I'm playing. I'm definitely playing now. Giving up.
Don't give up.
What did you do with the eyebrows, please? So just
I haven't put them in yet.
oh, right.
No, I put them in at the end after the hair.
Right at the end.
Okay, so we need to. Well, what time is it now? We need to discuss hair. We have done hair obviously already, but I'm just adding a little bit more. I'm only going to do the one eye, but generally eyes, as a rule, are darker in the middle because obviously that's why am I using this massive brush to do this. And as you can see, just when you add a little bit more of the dark, it seems to start coming out a little bit more. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the hair, Jackie, did you have straws, Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. I've got a visor on, so I'm not blowing anything, I don't think. So for the hair, just to go over the hair, we just want some quite dark pigment, really. And I'm going to mix that.
Is that just brown?
That's just that burnt umber again.
Burnt umber. Your burnt umber's very brown.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
If you use the one
I'm
out
using
of
the pan.
palette, it's a completely different colour to the one in the tubes.
Wow.
Yeah,
So-
it is. It's much better for a much better brown. That's really more like what it should be.
Which is better the tubes or something?
No, the tube's rubbish.
I gave you the old one, but I know you sat in a different place. Put the
No, I
old one.
sat here last week next to the window, but they're not good.
No, not a problem.
No.
Just swap them instead.
So all I'm doing here is just adding various colours. I'm putting some red in there now. You won't see it, but it just adds to that variance. And then we can sort of consider framing the face as well. So if I just do this one side here, you can put a little bit of ultramarine in there as well, just to get that darkness out. It should blend in and make it a little bit darker around the face. I say, I hope. And then I should, with a straw, be able to take this down a bit, get that dribble. And like Angela says, you know, we might need to make a new channel in some respects to let that water go. I would like a red. 1, 2. So you don't need to be worried too much about blooms or anything like that on the hair, because that's sort of what we're looking at. Again, with the lips, I would, now mine are dry, I want to go back in there with a little bit more alizarin, with just a touch of burnt umber on that top lip. Oh no, they're not quite dry. I just want it to be a little bit darker up there, and just a touch at the bottom of that top lip, where the light definitely doesn't get to.
I think I'm doing my whole portrait with the hair.
I doubt that at all.
It's exceptionally wiggy.
Okay, so really that's it. Obviously, there are some embellishments that you want to do. Oh, the eyebrows. Sorry, the eyebrows. Well, once we've done the hair, once you've done the fringe, then you'll know where the eyebrows go. I can't even see my eyebrows now, so I'm just going to pop that in there, and then you can build that. You can build that colour up as well. Is that okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want me to go over while I'm
From
here?
the beginning, from the beginning.
Take it from the top.
Yeah.
Take it from the top. So that's it, really. So that's obviously half a face, but that is the portrait. Good luck, anyone who hasn't attempted it. So really good luck, and yeah, happy painting. I'll see you next week.